Hello, I'm Wendy Penn, Associate Vice President of Affordable Housing Initiative at the Mortgage Bankers Association. Welcome to our Fireside Chat series. Members of the Affordable Housing Initiative team will talk to industry leaders to find out what they and their organizations are doing to increase access to affordable rental and homeownership opportunities. We'll also get a chance to get to know our guests a little bit better by finding out why this work is important to them. I'm excited to welcome our first guest, Cate Dalton, Senior Manager with Accenture. Let me share a little bit of her background with you. Cate has enjoyed a 25-plus-year career in the financial services and housing industries, specializing in mortgage lending, title, and real estate. She has held roles in sales management, operations, technology, and product management, which formed her passion to help organizations of all sizes transform into scalable, high-performing companies. Since joining Accenture in 2014, Cate leverages her mortgage and lending expertise to help clients create and innovate and develop tangible value. Cate, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Wendy.
If it's okay with you, I'd like to start just by telling people how we met.
I think that's a great idea.
All right. It was at the MBA annual conference going on 2 years ago in Nashville. And a colleague from the member services team let me know that you and someone else from Accenture wanted to set up a meeting in the member engagement suite, and you had an interest in learning about MBA's Affordable Housing Initiatives program and our DEI efforts. So I head on over to the member services suite thinking, okay, we'll talk about some housing statistics and data because this is Accenture. This is what they'll want to talk about. And I think I started the conversation in that way, and you said, yeah, that all of that's interesting. And you mentioned that Accenture does so much more than just deal with data. And you were interested in learning about the work we were doing, and in particular, our convergence place-based initiatives, which is working to close the racial homeownership gap. And I think we just hit it off from there, and we started talking regularly because at the time, our team was developing strategies to improve and expand convergence. And you really helped us develop a strategy that we are working to implement. And you were really key in helping us think through some of those opportunities. And so I really appreciate that, first of all. But it showed me, indeed, that Accenture does so much more than just deal with data. And I wanted to have you on today to ask you to talk about a couple of those initiatives that Accenture is working on in the homeownership space that people might not be aware of.
I love it. And, it's funny that you say that because oftentimes Accenture is so big. And for anyone who doesn't know, we are actually the largest consulting firm globally by employee. We have 738,000 employees. And we work across multiple industries in many, many areas. And so people often have an idea or a phrase that comes to mind when they think of Accenture. And data and technology are certainly two of them. But when I met with you and Amber, it was Amber Lawrence. It was because of those name tags with affordable housing and DEI. We have what we call dimensions in Accenture. So anytime we're working with a client, we focus on very core dimensions. And of course, first and foremost, we're supporting that client and what their goals and desires are. Finances often come into play as well. But two other dimensions are sustainability and what we call inclusion and diversity. And equity is part of that. And so I wanted to see where our similarities were, where our synergies were, because we have as much a passion around those two areas. And that to me is very much what affordable housing is about, is sustainability. So what is Accenture up to and what do we do? In mortgage, most people know us for our BPO outsourcing work and for the loan origination system and POS system and fintech capabilities we have through Mortgage Cadence. But we also do a lot of strategy work, consulting, go-to-market, operating model, technology implementation work for mortgage lenders and for banks that want to move into mortgage. We help organizations come into the space. So a couple things we've been working on though that are top of mind for me is Gen AI. And I'm assuming you've heard of Gen AI. We're all talking about it.
All talking about it. Yes.
Right. I saw Rocket just had an article about what they're doing with AI. And so Accenture is no different. A number of months ago, we announced that we are investing $3 billion into Gen AI efforts over the next 3 years. And that includes this space that we're talking about today. We've created and demoed at Davos the proof of concept we created for down payment assistance specifically. And one thing we talk about in the industry is how there are so many opportunities that get lost because down payment assistance programs were not available. And it doesn't mean that they didn't exist. It meant they weren't accessible. So this particular AI proof of concept is something that is near and dear to my heart because it enables a loan officer or someone within that lender to be able to actually aggregate and view the down payment assistance options available to the borrower they're working with based on loan data, whether it's geography or income range, whatever the parameters are. This tool will provide a list of qualified down payment assistance programs and the links to those programs. So the loan officer not only has a way to reach and create those opportunities for the borrower, but is also receiving the support and information they need. Because we know so many of those programs are all over the place right now, and they're not easy to access.
That's tremendous. Sorry to interrupt, but one of the things we talk about in Convergence is closing the information gap, not just for the consumer, but for industry professionals. Because as you said, there's a ton of information out there, but is it accessible? Is it easy to use? So that's great.
Yes, exactly. And we saw that in Convergence as well, didn't we? You all work through that regularly. That leads me to some of the things that maybe Accenture isn't known for, but we're definitely working in. We don't just work with large organizations, as some think. We are very involved with the public sector, with governments, with nonprofits, in housing, mortgage, and of course across multiple industries. But some of the things that make me proud to be at Accenture is we have a number of employees that actually come from those areas as well. So we have a range of expertise in housing, mortgage, government programs that we often support as part of affordable housing. And we've had an opportunity to really make a difference in some of those areas that we don't think about as much. And it makes me think of Convergence because as you all were working in Philadelphia, and we had that conversation, bringing these parties together, the public sector, the private sector, and banks, the nonprofits, and the GSEs. You brought them together, and they all have a reach that has a limit. There's only so much they can accomplish in affordable housing. And we have seen that as well in our housing practice, community of practice at Accenture. And so one thing that we seek to do and have done is, for example, during COVID, as those states were receiving this funding to help with homelessness, which to me is one of the first steps to affordable housing, right? Because many of our issues in affordable housing result from individuals and families that have not had the experience of homeownership and don't even know how to begin. We were able to support 3 states in particular in helping them qualify applicants into rental housing units and strategize and organize ways for programs in the community to be developed so that that individual could be fully supported, not just with getting rental shelter, but also learning to save up for a down payment on a home. Getting the support they might need with mental illness, right? Education that they need, because let's face it, this home ownership is very intimidating. to the first time home buyer, whoever you are, right? I was scared to death.
Absolutely.
I
Oh,
imagine you
same.
were too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's
But
neat that
that's
we have a chance to sort of be that behind the scenes operator and
mhm.
strategist as well.
Yeah, and that was as we talked and you shared a bit of that. That was a surprise to me. I didn't realize that there were so many of the less visible behind the scenes things that you are providing to really support and provide a backbone really for some of the efforts that these nonprofits are trying to do so that they can have a greater reach, which I think is impressive because it
Yeah.
frees them up to do what they are skilled at doing, which is providing the services. And you all can help them with the strategy for executing it. And I would imagine that create some efficiencies for them and would likely give them opportunities to increase their impact and also their ability to be profitable, which is a huge factor for nonprofits.
Well, it's funny that you say that. I'm thinking of one in particular, a nonprofit in this industry, and we were able to help them double their revenue.
Wow.
And that's significant because we know that goes straight back into the industry and into housing
Absolutely.
particularly. So lots of opportunity there. And then we learn and grow, right? We take what we've learned and we continue to expand on that in other communities and other organizations.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Test and learn, and then you
Test and
figure out how to
learn.
tweak it, and that's how you get to scalability. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as I said at the top, we also want to use these fireside chats as an opportunity to get to know our guests a little bit better and understand why this work is important. I found that it doesn't matter if you got into the housing industry on purpose or if you just sort of found yourself there through a different path. People stay because it means something to them. And can you share a bit with us about what it is about this work that's so important to you?
I love this question, Wendy. I just want you to know that. And I will tell you, I stumbled right in to mortgage and title insurance when I was younger than I'm going to admit. But why did I stay? I was thinking about this and starting with the truth. I am a privileged white woman. I am. I was raised by parents who had homes. And I understood that I paid my mortgage first, or my rent first, as the case was, and then my mortgage. I understood how to take care of a home and raise a family in that home. And when I went to high school, I went to a performing arts high school in downtown Dallas, inner city Dallas. And there I was a minority. And I had friends from Oak Cliff. And if you know where Oak Cliff is, it's South Dallas. And it was not a good community to be in at the time. The school was it was a charter school, but it was also sort of a feeder school for some of the more underserved neighborhoods. And I learned A, how naive I was at the time, and B, that there was something very unfair happening, that these friends of mine were trying to pay rent, not get evicted. It was a messy circumstance that they were in. And that sat with me and that stuck with me. And I went to school in South Central Los Angeles. I went to the University of Southern California, which, yes, we could have chosen where Pepperdine is, but we won't go there. We didn't. We picked that. And my 21st birthday is when the Rodney King verdict came out. And I was right in the middle of all sorts of riots and looting and fires and other things. And again, that sense of justice just burned in me of what was happening. So when I found myself here in mortgage, I realized that we had an incredible opportunity, which is probably one of the candid reasons I reached out to you, to fix that, to end that. I feel very strongly that every American and human, frankly, deserves to have home ownership if that's something that they want and should. And not only that, parents should be able to pay their bills and have a mortgage and go to work and allow their child to get to school safely, to and from on their bike in public transportation without any concern for their well-being. And that's not what we see today.
Yeah.
We have a long way to go. And I know it's a complex topic. Affordable housing is not something that you and I are going to solve, certainly in our lifetime. But I think continuing to be an advocate for supporting it and solving these complex problems. I get involved, at my town halls here in Denver, and we have a lot of great work that the nonprofits are doing. And I work for an organization that does the same. We're passionate and we want to make a difference. And that's what keeps me coming back. I don't know if you've ever volunteered for Habitat for Humanity.
I have.
Yes, yeah. Me as well. And that's one of the organizations we like to support. And I remember building the house, which made me nervous, quite frankly, putting up 2x4s. I'm like, someone's going to live here. It's going to fall down. This is not going to be good. But luckily I had guidance and support, and getting to meet the family. It was a single mom and her 2 kids. Getting to meet that family that walked into that house. I could cry now. It meant that's what it's about. What it's about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And well, I appreciate you sharing all of that. And my Habitat experience was very similar. I got to go, actually, it was right outside of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, helped frame out a house, and then was later able to come back and meet the family. And it was, as you said, it was something I'll never forget. I remember the little girl, she was maybe 6 or so, was walking around giving people a tour of the house, showing which room was hers. It's something that I will never forget. So yeah, it leaves an impression.
Nothing like
but
it.
Yeah, and it was so good to hear more about your story and why this work is important to you. I will say, as a side note, I did not know you went to a performing arts high school. So maybe offline, I'll have to find out a little bit more about what your talents are outside of the housing industry. I'm intrigued, Cate. I would like to know more.
Happy to share. You'd be surprised. People don't pick mortgage. Many of them have all kinds of hidden talents.
Yes, I see that. But it has been wonderful to talk with you and learn more about what Accenture is doing that our members might already be aware, but also some of those behind the scene, less visible things that you shared. And I know, just working with you personally, I understand the passion. I've seen it in action, and really appreciate the guidance that you've given us, our team, to make sure that MBA is doing all that we can to support our members in their efforts to create these affordable home ownerships. So again, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you being our first guest.
I love it. Thank you. I thank you for what you're doing and the MBA is doing as well.
Great. And thank you all for tuning in. And we hope to see you soon.